relationship counselor Elizabeth Overstreet. Everyone has this vision in their mind of what marriage is, how romantic they want it to be, how they're going to raise their children, what the core values are going to be in that relationship. But often we don't tell each other totally what that vision is.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Bad Talk. We are very excited to have our guest on tonight. His name is Justin Court. Justin has started this movement called Spread Love. So he has a page on Instagram and it's literally about loving gestures that people do. We're so curious to dive into this conversation with Justin about how did he get started? What has this movement meant for him personally? Where did it come from? So welcome to the show tonight.
I appreciate you so much, you guys having me on. And I'm just excited to talk about love, to just open ourselves up a little more and just have a good, honest conversation.
As we talk to different people on the show, there's something that brings them to this point of doing this particular thing that they become insanely passionate about and driven to share to the world. So how did you even get this, Spread Love movement going?
It came through the most euphoric, best, most loving experience I was having during my life. And so this took place some years ago. I was living in New York City and I met my now wife. When we met each other, we just fell in love pretty instantly. And the connection that we had was just unreal. And she opened me up to a love that I never even knew existed. And she grew up very, her parents instilled kindness and love and compassion and all these beautiful traits in her. And I grew up, I think, a very happy childhood as well, but she helped put me in a place, or helped me get to a place where love was just exploding out of my chest, out of who I am. I was in this euphoric state all the time. And so she was living in Brooklyn, in the city at the time, and I would commute into Manhattan for work. So it was amazing. So from her apartment, which I eventually moved into, but from that apartment, we would have to walk over a little bridge to get from Brooklyn to Queens. And then I would take the 7 train into Manhattan. But that walk over the bridge is the most beautiful view of the New York City skyline I've ever seen. You get the entire thing, it's unreal. And you're walking on this for about 12 to 15 minutes. So every single day on my way to work and then on my way back, I would literally just be in this euphoric state of being, in this high vibration that I never experienced before, because I was just so incredibly in love and feeling just so good. And as I'd walk over every day, I'd see this beautiful, view of the skyline of New York City. And it really, as I would walk over, I'd be in this state, and very slowly, it took time, but over time, I would start to have these thoughts. Okay, how can I contribute more positively to the world? How can I spread more love into the world? How can I help people feel this undeniable love that I feel in myself? And not in a romantic way, but just in the truth of who we are, which is love. And every day going over the bridge, I literally would continuously have these thoughts. And it took time. But over this time, I then had the idea how can I contribute? And then I had the idea for an Instagram page. And then I started the page. Over the first year, it didn't really grow very much at all. And then luckily it's grown to about 350,000 followers now, which has been amazing. But it was just me being in this incredible state and just really going into myself and wondering, okay, how can I contribute? And how can I put out good energy into this world and help people?
When a man can really express himself, in a way that is not only felt, but it's sensitive, it's caring, it's thoughtful, it makes me believe that's more of a man, because men tend to have this stigma, oh, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to talk in this manner. So I have to give it up to you for that, Justin, because that tells me right there that you are a man.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because that's something in life too. I feel like is a part of just who I am, and a message I'm trying to get out more is men being vulnerable and men being more loving and men talking about things that may be bothering them, or just being more transparent and communicating more. As men, it's tough to generalize, but there are certain traits that do seem to happen more on one side of the gender. Men holding all of this stuff in, and not, again, I don't want to generalize, not everybody does that, but the men that do hold their emotions and their feelings in, you're keeping that is causing you stress. And there's been studies now that stress is literally one of the leading causes of death. So as a person, if you're stressed out all the time, you're keeping all these emotions and feelings in, and you don't feel like you're in a space where you're able to express yourself freely and openly and be truly who you are, that's a tough place to be in. And that stuff is going to build and build and build over your life. And that stress is really going to weigh you down. And I love when, you know, what's wild too, in being vulnerable, you're seeing it more like, okay, what a beautiful thing you just said to me. And without my vulnerability, without me kind of putting it out there, I wouldn't have received that back from you. So that's like a great thing that's happening too, that I'm noticing with being vulnerable and being open. I'm starting to receive that back more and more and more. What I give out to source, God, the universe, is what just continuously comes back to me. And when you can be in a space where then you feel more and more comfortable as a man expressing yourself and your emotions and really the depth of who you are and not being embarrassed and being vulnerable, it is just such an incredible thing to see in other men as well.
And I think you tapped into something important. You know, you had your wife as that support system. So people might be out there like, I don't have a wife, I don't have a girlfriend, I don't have a boyfriend, I don't have anyone I feel that can support me. And that's why I think it's important to find your tribe. There's always your tribe of people that understand you and get you. And so I think a lot of times the reason why things are overwhelming for people to do is because people don't surround themselves with support systems to enable them to move forward. So by your wife opening you up, now you have this platform where you're reaching people and you're making them think like, oh, even in the midst of a pandemic, I'm sure people were really tuning into your platform, looking for hope, looking for love, looking for kindness in the world. You just never know like how you can affect someone and how that person now affects other people. And now you have all these people that are like watching and looking and learning. So I was curious, like out of all the things that have come across your platform, I'm sure you get tons and tons of great things to share. And I'm just curious, like out of all the things that kind of crossed your platform as far as the things you've seen, has there been some things that really touched you more than others, or any stories that kind of come to mind?
The things that I love the most are just the simple acts of kindness that just show our love for each other. It's very simple to perform an act of love or an act of kindness. It doesn't take much effort a lot of the times. It can be the tiniest things like we talked about again before, but they can really have some of the biggest impacts.
I like that because I think you're sending a message. Like it doesn't always have to be grandiose gestures.
That's right.
Because I think sometimes we think things have to be so huge to be impactful. But to your point, it's like throwing a pebble in a lake and it's like, it's a big ripple effect, right?
And it's like the little things. I could probably do 6 little acts of kindness in a day. It may take me a week to do something massive. It literally can be those tiny things, because in those tiny things, every single person can do that. And that's right. That's it.
I love what you said. You know, to try to plan something, you know, grandiose would take forever. Oh man, but you can do, like you said, just 6 simple things without even thinking, within an hour, within a day. Easily. And that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes.
That's awesome too. Part of your story too. I'm sure growing up, and you saying you didn't have a lot to like physically give, I'm sure in moments that was tough growing up, not having a lot or not having things to give. From the outside perspective looking in, how beautiful was it that you didn't have much to physically give, because look what God instilled in you and look at the person you are today. Because if you had all these physical things to give, you would have probably placed a lot of emphasis on physical, on materialistic, but because you didn't, you led with your heart.
So thank you for having that insight to my upbringing that has, yes, thank God, has made me the man that I am, and still more of a man I need to be. So appreciate that.
You guys are awesome. You guys have such good energy. I always like to give love where I see it, and you guys just seem amazing. You seem like you have a really great thing going on. You just seem like really beautiful people, and I'm very grateful to be here with you right now.
And we are grateful to have you here too. Why don't you tell people like where they can find you, some of the projects you're working on, and so forth?
Yeah, so if you want just a little bit more love brought into your life, you know, if you want just little perks of joy and moments of joy throughout your day to help you feel good and just better than you're already feeling right now, definitely check out the page. On Instagram, it's spreadlovemovement. TikTok, the same thing. Facebook, the same, spreadlovemovement. Then we have a podcast that's been out for about 1.5 years, talking to some incredible guests.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. We so appreciated you. You just gave us a lot to think about, and I think our audience will totally enjoy this as much as we're enjoying it in this moment. We're going to take off for now until we have another episode of Bed Talks. Please remember to subscribe to us. You can find us on the Anchor app, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many other platforms. But until next time, as we always say, and Justin, you'll appreciate this, XOXO.